Hello again everyone, and welcome back to my workshop for another of Harry's little Jeti Clinic videos. And in this one I'm delighted to present another of Dave McQueenie's wonderful LUA applications, this one called A-Mix, which is really designed for knife edge flight, although I'm sure you can probably think of some other uses for it. In this, it very quickly and automatically sets up 9-point curves for your rudder to elevator and rudder to aileron mixes so that you can tune the model to fly straight in knife edge. Basically in one pass in either direction pretty much gets it set, although you can probably do a second pass really just to fine tune it in. And like the Autocrow mixing app that Dave did a little while back, which this is basically, it's based on it, it means you just fly the model. You don't take your eyes off the model, you don't take your fingers off the sticks, and the app does the heavy work for you of sorting out the multi-point curves. I've got an example here on the screen showing them. This one, the rudder to elevator mix. This one, the rudder to aileron mix. And I've just set it up here as an example. So if I move the rudder stick, you'll see the boxes move. They choose the point nearest to them. I'll move my finger around to a better place. So it chooses that point. As you move the stick, it chooses that point, and that point, and that point. And if I was to move the elevator, I'll switch the application on.
Auto mix. Auto mix.
And the warning will always run whilst the application is working. If I now move the elevator at that point, you see it can move any point relative to where I'm moving the stick. And when I switch the mix off, well, it's not switching the mixer off, it's switching the app off from picking up the movement. I'll now move the rudder back to those points, but moving the elevator stick no longer moves the point. And I've been using this with my Booker Jungmeister, which rolls strongly away from the direction that you've moved the rudder, and also tends to pitch quite well nose down whilst you're moving the rudder in knife edge. And I can hear a lot of people saying, oh, you don't need mixes, just fly the thing. Well, that's very well if you're just doing a straightforward knife edge pass, but if you're doing 4-point rolls or slow rolls and you get to the point where you're now starting to push in the rudder and it suddenly opposes your roll rate or speeds it up and pushes the model away, it's very hard to try and keep a nice regular roll rate in a straight line. If the mixing takes that out, that's great. But if you're one of those people who likes to feel smug and say, oh, you should just fly the model, great, just ignore this, let the rest of us enjoy our technology. Now, as you can see now, you get independent elevator and aileron mixer curves, and each side gets set up independently, and they work at the same time. So let's say I'm flying along, I switch on the app, I've pushed in my rudder, and now I need to pull up elevator and left aileron at the same time. As you can see, it adjusts both curves at the same time. And that's how it allows you to set it up in one pass. So let's take a look at how you get the app and how you set it up. Okay, we need Jeti Studio. And if you haven't already put in the app source, which you would have done if you've used the Autocrow app, and maybe some others, you need to add it in for Studio to find the website with the apps. For this you go to File, Configuration, App Sources, and the one you want is this one here at the top. And I will put that into the description box below so that you can simply copy and paste it. It's very important not only to get the letters right, but they must be the correct upper and lower case. It's rather unusual this, in that it really does matter whether it's a capitals or lowercase. So you put that into your app sources, and that way when you connect up your transmitter via USB, just get that out of the way, in the LUA app manager it will now find apps from those websites in your additional sources. So if we look down here, we can find the DFM apps. There they are, and this is the one you're after, DFM-xxx LUA. So click on that, press install. Obviously I can't because it's already installed, and let it put that onto your transmitter and we'll be ready to go. Now that we've put the app onto the transmitter, let's have a look at how we use it. And if you've used the AutoCrow app, you'll recognize all the steps here. There's just obviously one more axis to deal with it. If not, please follow the steps carefully because you do have to set it up properly to get it to work. So let's go into our menu, down to Applications, User Apps, press the plus button and find AMX. There we are, DFM-xxx. Now, whilst I remember, this app can't be used on the original 14 and 16 transmitters that have the black and white screen. Unfortunately, it just uses a bit too much of the resources for those transmitters. But hey, there's another excuse for you to go and get yourself one of the new Jetis. Okay, that's our adaptive mixer in. Say okay to that. Let's have a look in apps, and it should show separately there, adaptive mixer. In we go. And the first thing we need to do is tell it the main control, which would be crow or rudder, but in this case, because we're using knife edging, it's this one, the rudder. So we open the field, move the control. Now you do need it to be proportional. It will warn you if you forget to do it. Watch what happens if I press OK, set the control to proportional. And the proportional you need is that one, not that one. Again, that would give you the warning. See, set it proportional. So what it wants is this one here. Okay, no warning. And the main control mode, we'll leave it as it is. Main control reverse, I don't need to do that. So the auto mix elevator on off control and the auto mix aileron on off control, we've allowed you to do them separately, but I would suggest really you just want them both on the same switch. And this switch is not to switch the mixing on and off. This switch is when the app will pick up what you're doing with the aileron elevator control and move the multi-point curve. So I'm going to set it to the same switch. Set that one. Auto mix, same switch again. That one. And now I need to tell it my elevator control. So I go in here, move the elevator. Again, I need it to be proportional. That one. And the aileron control is that one. Again, must be proportional. There we go. And let's have a look in the app settings. The auto crow rate is really how sensitive the app is at moving the points when you move your elevator or aileron. We've set it at 300. I suggest you're quite happy leaving it there. Announce the unset trim points. Again, this is a carry through from the AutoCrow app. I strongly recommend switching that off. This is when, if you haven't set one of the points yet, it will announce 0.1, 0.2, 0.5, 0.7, 0.9, whatever. Frankly, you really don't need it. Just watch the model and fly it. You know, roll it over to knife edge, push in the rudder that you need, and then pull the aileron and elevator required to keep it going straight. You don't need the distraction of numbers being announced. And really, you shouldn't be trying to set a number. This is like trainees in full size flying, desperately watching the instruments instead of looking out of the window. Don't chase the number. Watch the airplane, watch what it's doing, fly it, ignore what actual point you're at. You don't need to do it. And reset mix curve. We can come back to that later. Okay, right, now that there's an app in there, we can go to Model, Functions Assignment, and we need to create the two new functions that will be used for the mixer itself initially. So plus, and I'll call this, you can call it whatever you like. I'm going to call it KE for knife edge and E for the elevator. Okay, and I'll create another one, and I'll call it KE for knife edge, and A for the aileron. Okay, now they need controls that come from the LUA app, which is why you couldn't do this until the app existed. So go into here, down to user applications, and the adaptive mixer value elevator. It was that one, so we want the elevator. Say OK on our knife edge elevator, and user apps, the adaptive mix aileron for that one. Okay, so now we've got those set up, we can do our mixing with them. So we need to go to fine tuning, free mixes, create a new mixer, and the first one will be from our from the K elevator to elevator. Pop in here and give it a master value of 100%. You can assign a switch now for this mix if you want. I don't bother, but if you like to have yet another chance of disabling things, you can assign your normal mixing switch. Okay, and we need another one from the app aileron to ailerons. Again, master value 100%, assign a switch if you want. Now, if you're running 2 aileron servos, most likely you need to come down here and change it from single direction off. Otherwise, what you'll find is both your ailerons go up and both go down. Okay, set that to okie dokie. Incidentally, although we've set a mix value in here of 100%, the app only goes out to a maximum of 50%. And again, this is a carryover from the AutoCrow app. It's a little bit of a safety feature to prevent the app potentially driving the servos to their limits of travel and giving you control problems. If you need more than 50% mix, then as we did with the AutoCrow, just add in another mix of the same and they'll accumulate up. Okay, so we can say OK to that. And you don't have to, but it's very, very helpful to add in those 2 boxes that show what the mixers are actually up to. So if we go into mixer, timer sensors, displayed telemetry, plus LUA, the elevator mix curve, plus LUA, the aileron mix curve, say OK, and there they are. Notice that they're using double boxes, but we didn't have to specify a double box, just put them in. Now, if I move the rudder left, the tracking boxes should go left. If I move the rudder right, the tracking boxes should go right. That's good. You'll notice that there's a number here and a number appears at the bottom whilst we move it. The number at the bottom is the value at that point. Yeah. The number up here is the value on the curve. Okay. So now, in theory, if we switch on the app, we'll start getting the warning. I'll turn the sound volume down a bit so that it's not too intrusive. And you cannot get rid of that warning. It's there to make sure you remember to switch the app off. Okay, so you're flying along, you want to go to knife edge, switch the app on, and off go the warnings, and start flying your maneuver. If you've rolled to knife edge, you push on some amount of rudder, and you move your ailerons and elevator as required. As you can see, the app will not move a point you haven't got to, it moves the point you've got to, and any further unset points will follow it so that you're not left with a steep zigzag. And then you fly along the other direction, get to where you need to, the amount of rudder you need, and do as required with the elevator and aileron to get things the way you want. Now, the reason for all these multiple points is that in many aircraft, yeah, you just push on a lot of rudder and that's it. But I've had aircraft in the past, such as a Synergy 90, where a small amount of rudder was required for knife edge and a large amount of rudder would give you a knife edge loop. But the elevator compensation required was a little bit of elevator one way in just knife edge flight and a lot of elevator in the opposite direction during a knife edge loop. And so you could end up with an elevator curve that would look something like this. I'll switch it on. So you'd use a little bit of compensation one way for knife edge, but lots of compensation the other way for the knife edge loop. And so that basically does it. You fly your two directions, you've got it set up, fly them again, just tweak it into place, and there you go. Now, you could at this point just say, that's it, I've done it, it's all set up. But you might take the opinion that it's not advisable to let LUA apps have control of your primary control surfaces, and therefore you'd like to transfer these to a proper mixer and do away with the app. It's certainly what I do, just an extra bit of safety. So how would you go about doing that? Well, you're going to need the values from these curves. So off we go, we move it along, and this is our elevator, so you need to write the values down. So the end point there, far left end point will be 89, next point is 72, next point's 48, next point's minus 21, of course the middle point is 0, that point there is 0, and then these points were all minus 99. And then we do the same thing for your aileron. Look over here, it was 100, they were 100, 100, 100, nil, 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 32, 32, 32. Okay, so those are the points we're going to put into a mixer. Let's just double check something. Let's have a look at the servo travel. If I remember rightly, this is our rudder, these are our two ailerons, and that's the elevator. So the aileron at full left, if we remember for a moment ago, our curve was at 100, but remember I said that the app only goes out to half value, so there's your 50%. And the elevator has gone to plus 45, which is because the app had a value of plus 89, call it 90, rounding errors. That's why that's there. Okay. So we go to fine tuning, free mixes, and we're going to make, well, we can just adapt these, can't we? So we could say instead of key to elevator, it's rudder to elevator. And this one will be rudder to aileron. Well, let's go and sort them out. Edit it. Leave the master value at 100. No, we're going to take it down to 50. And the reason for that is to replicate the fact that the app only really goes halfway. And that allows us to put the full numbers into the curve. Switch, if you want a mixer switch or not, curve, we go in here and change it to 9 points. And then we can come down here and simply put in the values that we actually got from the app that we wrote down a moment ago. So that one, we're going back to here, that one was going to be 89. That one was 72. 48, minus 21, middle point 0 of course, and then we had another 0, and then the rest are all minus 99s. Okay, and this mixer will now replicate the curve that we saw on screen a moment ago. Now you're thinking, this looks massively steeper and more exaggerated than the flatter curve we just had. And that's because, for a start, it was in a box that shape rather than square, so that's going to flatten it. But also remember, it was cut. This is cut in half by the master value of 50%. So we'll say OK. And let's have a look at servo travels. Not yet, because remember, we've now got this mixer running. Yep, it doesn't matter. So this was our elevator, and if I go to full stick, it should go to 45. There we go, 45. And it will go to about minus 50 the other way, minus 49 there, go, rounding errors. So that's it done. And you do the same for the rudder to aileron. Remember, make the master value now just 50%. Go in, make your 9-point curve with the values you've done. And then what you can do is, if you wish, remove the app completely from this model. Of course, there's no app, so those boxes have disappeared. You can go into timers, sensors, displayed telemetry, and remove them. And that's it. As I say, I found on my Booker Jungmeister, which really does pitch and roll as you go into knife edge, this app sorted it. It really did so quickly in one pass. So, yep, just roll knife edge, push on your rudder, and fly the model. Let the app do the work. Have fun with that, folks.